Recently, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council disclosed that the federal government has identified about 22 non-oil strategic products that will be exported to diversify the nation's foreign exchange earnings away from oil. Some of the targeted products include palm oil, cashew, cocoa, soybeans, rubber, rice, petrochemical leather, ginger, cotton, and shea butter, in addition to tomato, bananas, and plantain. Well, furthermore, the CBN, that's the Central Bank of Nigeria, has also complemented its efforts with the use of administrative controls to strengthen local production by placing a ban on access to foreign exchange for importers of many of the agricultural products identified by the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Well, joining us to discuss cash crop development and exportation opportunities in Nigeria is the Deputy Managing Director of Peniel Gera International Limited, Enahoro Ojiefoh. You're welcome to the morning show. Thank you for joining us. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, ultimately, this conversation will center on agriculture, Nigeria's agricultural potential here. This is, of course, happening on the same week as the Agriculture Summit Africa, as the federal government has also been commending itself and Nigeria for averting a food crisis. So our conversation, I guess, will bring on talking about agriculture in itself and the fact that it does seem as though even though we can be happy with what the government have said about avoiding a food crisis, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Farmers on the very bottom of the food chain need to be incentivized. And so I wanted to start our conversation there. If we can accept that access to affordable finance plays an important role in incentivizing farmers, we have to admit that there are many other issues creating a hindrance to that, delaying Nigeria's agricultural productivity, such as farmers only operating on small land at a time, poor infrastructure, and a lack of adequate storage facilities. Why do you think these problems haven't been solved as yet, if Nigeria is serious about kickstarting its agricultural sector?
Yeah, good morning. I want to first of all say that agriculture is a business, not an activity. So over the years, we have seen it to be a culture of society people, especially the poor. I think that is the major challenge we need to address on the agricultural sector. Then secondly, we have seen so many policies, in the agricultural sector that the government is trying to bring aboard, including the CBN. But I think we need to take it serious. As we are developing the oil economy, we also understand that there is a soil economy. So first, the policies are wonderful, but the implementation is very poor. So apart from the crisis and the insecurity around the agricultural sector, we also have logistic problem. It's a major problem in the agricultural sector. When you are coming from, bringing a product from Kaduna or you are coming from Taraba, it takes almost about 2 weeks before you can arrive Lagos. And another part that needs to be addressed also is the area where you will spend even 1 month within Lagos to Apapa. So I think there are so many areas we need to really look at into this agricultural sector. And I also see it as an opportunity for us to have a national agricultural development corporation. As we have in NNPC, we also need to have it in agriculture, where we have to define and streamline how to bring these policies into reality, down to from the federal level down to the state level, and how to implement to the local government level down to the villagers who are major player in the industry in terms of farming.
Well, you talked about implementation. So what would you rather be done? Is one thing to locate or decipher a problem, but there's another thing to begin to think about how to solve it. So you talked about implementation, and of course you talked about the question of transportation. That's what I understand from what you said.
Yeah.
So you have the opportunity now. Let's look at discuss how we can tweak the implementation side to make it work, and then the transportation. What exactly are you referring to or talking about?
Okay, there is a force at the federal level in the agricultural sector. The federal government are trying so much, but this is not coming to the state level and not coming to the local government level. So the same way, the same energy and tenacity the federal government is putting in place to make sure these things are working, how to be translated into the state level, then down to the communal level. I remember those days in my state, we have a communal system, communal farming system, It's a structure that worked over the years within that period of, and we see that there were so many results coming out from there. So the state have to do identification first. I think one of the challenge and one of the area I want to talk about here is identification, because we are blessed as a nation and we don't have identity in terms of, we don't know how to identify some of these viable products, especially the cash crop product. So identification is one. And I want to say this now. If some states are blessed with cash crops, like Ondo, like state like Taraba, Kogi, and other states that have cash crops. So we need to, first of all, develop this state. We need to bring them together and harness this product in this state level. So if you check history, if you check record from the MBS, you discover that sesame seed and cocoa it earn almost about 60% of the agricultural export product. Just these two, and sesame is leading. Now, what happens if a state government develop this product to earn more forests? If we can develop this product, that's why I was talking about having a national development, agricultural development corporation, where we develop some certain products that are viable, worth into billions. So if we can develop this product, I think development is one, identification is two. Then the area of logistics and transportation, we have so many issues around that area. Now, taking goods from Taraba, for example, the truck will cost minimum 700 to 800,000 to arrive Lagos, most times. Now, talking about this system in full scale, you discover that if we have a train that walks from Taraba down to Lagos, or we have a link, it's a very modified pattern by which we move this product down to Lagos, I think it will ease that stress. And that challenge is that within the farming system, we still have to work on this logistic problem, because farmers will have to go extra mile to farm using this old Adamic method to come out with the product, and it will cost them over 30% to 40% of the total sum to bring the goods out of their farm down to the city where they can put it for market. So I think logistics is a serious thing we need to look at in the agricultural sector. Then two, we need to do development and identification. As I said earlier, we need to do this development identification. This will really help us as a country, this will help us as a state, and will help us as citizens.
By identification, I don't know whether this is what you're driving at. We just read, now I'm sure you heard it, 22 non-oil products. Femi just read that. 22 non-oil products that will be exported. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Now, these 32 non-oil products need to be, we need to channel our energy into this. How? We need to identify out of these 32.
22?
Out of these 22, yes. Out of these 22, we are looking at, we have to select the best exportable product, the one of high value. Now, we need to do it state by state. These 32 are spread across the state, but there are states that are more dominant in this production. For example, sesame, for example, we have Nasarawa, we have Yobe, we have Jigawa, we have Katsina. These states produce sesame in large volume. We'll talk about cashew nut. We have Ogbomoso, which is Oyo State. We have Kogi State. We have Edo State. We have Enugu State. So these are identification I'm talking about. So we produce this in large quantity. Now, that is the identification I'm talking about.
Well, on talking about that, because I guess our conversation is shifting towards our cash crops. As you've just said, sesame seed has been quite successful. It is Nigeria's biggest agricultural export earner. Yeah. But in addition to other agricultural products, things like gum arabic, plantain, banana, cassava. Cassava, actually, Nigeria is the biggest producer of cassava. Yeah. However, Thailand is the biggest exporter of it. So where you have situations like this, tell us why that is the case. Why Nigeria has all of this obvious potential but isn't able to reap the benefits of it? Okay,
first, we need to see the local market for cassava is very large. We're talking about the industrial production. We're talking about commercial farming. So I'll give an example. I went to my state around 2015, thereabout. I wanted to set up a cassava processing plant where we do cassava chips and flour. Now, I have a meeting with so many stakeholders. I called the AFAN chairman. I called so many people to come on board. Let's discuss how we can mass produce this cassava. Now, industrial scale for cassava is not 10 tons, it's not 5 tons. It's about 30 to 20 tons per day. Now, we have to make this inquiry. We discovered that the state can't even service the local consumption of cassava, not to talk about industrial. And when you say industrial, we need in large volume. We need it. As I speak to you now, so many factories in Nigeria are short of raw materials of this same cassava. We have a factory in Ondo State. We have a factory in Kogi State. We have a factory in Shagamu. They need this product. But the local demand is high, but the production is low. So the problem is production first. We need to identify these things and mass produce them before we can earn good money from it. Because right now, as I speak to you, the worth of cassava per tonnage is about 10 ton equals to 1 ton of sesame seed. A ton of sesame is around 400,000 right now as I speak. A ton of cassava is between 39 to 40,000 per ton. So now the production is very, very low. It's very, very low. It can't serve us on the table side, not to talk about the commercial.
So how do we involve the federal government? Because you were talking about a coordinated effort between the federal,
the
you
state.
said they're doing quite good at the federal, but it's not trickling down to the state and then to the local government. So how do we harness all this? Because I don't know what to say, surprised that in the first place, the consumption of cassava for home use is not even enough.
It's not enough, yeah.
Not to talk about trying to export it. So how do we harness all this to be able to get that we need both for home, and then we'll begin to talk about exporting it to earn income, from it?
Okay, first we need to bring this policy into reality first. Then two, we need to do what's called clusterization. Cluster farming system is key in mass production of agricultural product. Then each state, by their kind, by their strength, have to mass produce this. For example, my state can set up a scheme to say, we want to mass produce, we have a target of about 150,000 metric tons of cassava. We need to have this year. So what you do is you have to harness these farmers together, put them in cluster form. Then you now give them empowerment. Now, money is not a problem in agriculture. First is the knowledge. Because the risk is, you don't invest in what you don't know. Most investors are scared to invest in agriculture. The federal government has so many policies. The CBN has so many policies. They have so many opportunities for farmers. But this can't work because the system to mass produce them is very, very low. We are not doing it. So the federal government have to push more effort for states. Those states have to do identification. Those states have forest area. They have good vegetation for mass production of cassava. Kogi State, the same thing. Ondo State, the same thing. But you can't compare this state now, going back to the north, to mass produce cassava. But they mass produce some of the cash crop, the oil seed product, very well. So we come down to this area. Edo State mass produce. There's a large market for cassava when you go to industrial state. There's a big market for it. So you have to go down. The state government have to take it very serious upon themselves and said, okay, we want to identify some of these key products that are mass produce them as we are receiving the energy from the federal government.
All right, Enahoro, your talk is really interesting. We will keep you on pause. We'll come back and we look at both the issues you're talking about and, of course, the fact that we've escaped food crisis in the nation according to the president. I will be back. Stay with us on The Morning Show.
Welcome back to The Morning Show here on Arise News. We are still joined by the Group Managing Director of Peniel, Gera International Limited, Enahoro Ojiefoh. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on agricultural mechanization, rather. That is, as you know, the substitution of crude farm implements and practices with advanced machines and systems of rearing plants and animals and improving the shelf life of agricultural produce using modern processing techniques. Yeah. Why do you think that has stopped being adopted, or what do you think the issue is with that there?
First, as I said, as we started the program, I said people don't see it as a business. When you see it as a business, your investment knowledge change entirely. So now, let me come down to the development of agriculture. Now we don't have a commodity board that trying to bring out this information down to the farmers. The technology is another area we need to look at. But this has to come to play when the states are involved, the private sector are involved, and we have to identify some of these products that will give us energy to invest more in agriculture. It's an investment. It's a business on its own. It's not a culture. It's a business. So the farmers are still using the Adamic method to do their best to come out with some of these products. I'll tell you the truth. As I speak to you now, this is the surplus season. So we are not out of crisis yet of this food. We are not out yet because it is the surplus season. We need to talk about this again after about 3 months, 4 months from now when the harvest is out. They will know if the pandemic and other insecurity really affecting us as a country in the agricultural sector. The technology development is another area, and bringing mechanization into play is another key area the investors need to look into. I was trying to, we are designing a program now for sunflower. We are designing a program for gum arabic. We are designing a program for, what's it called, hibiscus flower. Now, these are products that are viable. But to do this, we need to use mechanization. We don't need to use the manual system to mass produce this. Mass production and translation of these policies into state have to be commercial, have to be mechanized. So it's not just, I don't see the one we see on paper and TV is far, far beyond that. Agriculture is 90% practical, just 10% English.
All right.
So it's not... It's not what we see on...
Enjoying your talk. Well, you've mentioned certain things in passing. One, the food crisis, the COVID-19, and the farmers. I'm going to come back to all that. But let's talk about the food crisis. The president just recently is asserting that Nigeria has been able to avert the food crisis despite COVID-19. How do you respond to that? I mean, in fuller detail, let's talk about that.
Okay. By media knowledge, it's true. But by practical knowledge, it's not true yet. Mm-hmm. Because we are seeing the harvest. This is a surplus season. So you don't judge now. You have to see after this season. Is this true? Is this true? Is this practical that we are out of it? As I speak to you now, you can ask how much is palm oil. Find out how much is a ton of cassava now, as I speak to you now. You have moved from 25,000. I do this practically. I'm not talking about what I read on newspaper and all that. We need to bring this thing into reality. A ton was 25,000, but now it's 40,000 per metric ton in the bush, not in the market, in the bush. So you have to spend more money to bring it out to the factory where you want to sell it out. The factories are buying around 50,000 per metric ton as I speak to you. So I don't think it's true to judge now. We need to wait for scarcity. Then we'll know if we have enough that will take us to the next season before we can now say, oh, we are out of this food.
All right. You talked about the same thing now. You talked about farmers. He commended the Nigerian farmers for their contribution. What more can be done, Enahoro, to help the Nigerian farmer?
First, we need to have a vision. We need to have a master plan. We need to have an agricultural master plan. How do we do this? We need to bring back Agricultural Commodity Board now, as you speak, because we need agriculture now. This is the soil economy now. We need to bring that Nigeria Agricultural Development Commission. We need to set it up. That will give us this energy, that will drive these policies down to the state, down to the local government level. These have to be translated, not at the federal level. The federal level are bringing out so many policies, so many windows where we can have opportunity, but these have to be translated. The state government have to see it as a task for them to mass produce some of these products that are identified in their state. And this will give us a future. But for now, I don't think the state level and the local government level are doing their best. I just think it's between the federal government and the local farmers who are still trying to come to an understanding. But for investors, the state and the local government, they are not part of this agricultural
In that case, then, do you think that a holistic, multi-stakeholder approach to the agricultural value chain would be something that would be better in order to ensure food availability? Because I know in your earlier answer you talked about, well, we're in a time of surplus now, and we need to focus on looking at how we are going to be at a time of scarcity. So as it stands, what do you think, how important do you think a holistic multi-stakeholder approach would be, as you don't think, the federal government can do it alone or have been able to do it alone?
Okay, when we discovered the oil, I remember there was a reform to set up Nigeria Petroleum Commission. Now, we need to set up Agricultural Corporation. We need to set it up. Very, very important. Commodity board have to come. I remember those days when we have cocoa board. We have so many sorts. As I speak to you now, the production for cocoa is diminishing. People are not talking about production. People are talking about investment into this product. So now we need to bring this, everybody into table and design. And I say, okay, what are we going to do? The state A, state B, okay, identify what you have more, what you can mass produce. The federal government have to be there. All the stakeholders have to be involved. Then the energy will be translated. The energy will flow. As it is now, it's just flowing at the federal level.
Yeah, Enahoro, I'm listening to your ideas. That's so interesting. I can't help ask this question. Is there any way that you're involved with the state, with the federal government, to transmit your ideas to them so that they can work with it?
Yes, as I speak now, passionately, I'm already nursing about close to 10,000 seedlings for cashew nut. I want my state, Edo State, to, every year we are going to be adding 10,000 to the system. It may not be visible now, but by 4 years from now, it will be visible. I want Edo State to lead in the cashew industry. I want Edo State, I've already test run, as a matter of fact, about 2 weeks ago, I sent a sample because I've already checked in the meat report when it's due for us to test run to plant sesame seed. I've already sent a sample of this sesame seed to my state, to some of these local government, to check, to see if we can have this in our state. I'm doing that already, and by His grace, I'm a FACAN coordinator in my state, Federation of Agricultural Commodity. We are working hand to hand with the federal government to see how we can bring this into play. Thank God now the governor and everybody are coming back, and we need to sit down. I'm planning a meeting. We need to sit down with the Ministry of Agriculture and all that. I submitted a proposal some time ago, and then we need to review that proposal and see how we can do some of that education. Yeah.
Enahoro, you are passionate about this thing, and we here at Arise can only wish you well and, hope that your drive will, affect both the federal, both the state, because it's all for the good of Nigeria, and then for the farmers to be able to eke out a good living from farming.
Thank you. So I will say this, in 3 months from now, we'll be setting up sunflower program. Yes, we are going to set up a sunflower program, which we are going to do.
It's definitely an exciting time for agriculture in Nigeria. We speak so much about the negative side of it, the fact that we know for a fact.
We are blessed.
Exactly.
Yeah, we are blessed.
You hear that perishable crops, we lose up to 60% per harvest. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
In fact, we didn't even have time to talk about flood, and how it affects agriculture, because there's been a talk there a lot on flood, Femi.
Yeah, as a roundup, I always tell people around the world that Nigeria we are blessed, and not by just saying we are blessed, we are blessed. Our worth is inside us. We might not be seeing the harvest now, but we are blessed. We are giants. If you go to some African countries, I have a warehouse in Benin Republic, I have a warehouse in Ghana, I have a warehouse in Ivory Coast for some of these products. I can tell you, without missing my words, Nigeria is the best country to explore in agriculture. Investors have to come in. Everybody has to come into this economy.
That's a very positive, interesting place to lead the discussion at. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Enahoro.